Hi, I'm Sara Jade and welcome to my channel, where we talk about true crime, unsolved cases and more. If you're interested in true crime, be sure to like, subscribe and hit that bell. So in today's case, we're going to be talking about AJ Freund and how he was let down by his own family and the very people that were put in place to protect him. Now, a quick content warning. In this video, we will be talking about the death of children and abuse. If this is something you can't watch, please switch off now and I'll see you in the next video. JoAnn was born in February 1983, and in the same year, her mother divorced her father. He was a drunk and very abusive. Her father had served 3 stints in prison for burglary, theft and drug charges, and died at the age of 44 from a history of drug and alcohol abuse. Besides her father's problems, she had a good childhood, and her mother remarried when she was 7, and she had a great relationship with her stepfather. She was a good artist and wanted to study to go to art camp, but she ended up getting pregnant at the age of 16. She and her boyfriend had met through mutual friends, and she moved in with Christopher Butler, dropped out of school and moved in with his family. Her first son was born in July 2000 and she decided to get her GED. Her life was going well until in July 2001, her brother Joseph committed suicide. Joseph had become more depressed since his beloved grandfather had died, and he started to use a lot more drugs before his suicide. This left a huge hole in JoAnn's life and she struggled with his death. She stayed with her boyfriend for about 10 years, but then it started to get violent, so she decided to move back in with her parents. At the age of 23, she completed her course in cosmetology, and in 2006 she started dating Craig Summer Camp after meeting him at a party. They get married in 2009 and JoAnn becomes a licensed foster parent to her 6-year-old godson. However, less than 3 years later, in 2012, her husband files for divorce. He accused her of being violent and said she was now mixing medication. JoAnn was on a mix of 12 to 15 medications, including Percocet and morphine. She had also admitted that she was buying them illegally. He described her as a decent person when they first met. However, when she got hooked on drugs, it went downhill super fast. JoAnn is now stood in the county courthouse facing divorce from her husband. She has no job, no attorney, and is addicted to a mix of dangerous drugs when she meets Andrew Freund. Andrew Lake had gone to Crystal Lake Community High School and was described as popular but shy. He graduated with honours from the University of Illinois and earned a law degree from John Marshall's. Andrew coped with stressful moments in his life by taking opioids and drinking, and he was asked to leave his first job at Crystal Lake Law Firm due to his alcohol problems. From then on, he practiced law at his Crystal Lake home on Dole Avenue while fighting drug and alcohol addictions. JoAnn and Andrew got to talking, and he offered to help her by being her lawyer on her case. She then moved into Andrew's house in August of that same year. At this time, her caseworker was losing confidence in her and how she'd moved into Drew's house without telling anyone and without any notice, and that was the last straw, so they removed the 7-year-old foster boy from her care. Her divorce to summer camp wasn't going very smoothly, and when she moved out the property, she had caused over $20,000 worth of damage. She was then found guilty of criminal contempt for removing items from the house and was sentenced to 14 days in prison. At this time, she started to take heroin, and her son moved in with his grandma. Her relationship with Andrew started off volatile, and it only got worse, and in 2012, the police had over 12 calls made out to the property. With so much chaos and her sitting in prison, her son didn't want to move back in with her and wanted to stay with his grandma. So his grandma put in a case with DCFS. She stated there was no running water, no heating or no phone in the house. There was dog waste all over the place, dishes everywhere and cat urine all over the place. He was made to sleep in the basement and often didn't have much food, clean clothes and was neglected. She also mentioned her daughter's drug problems. And throughout this time, her son was able to stay with his grandma, and she got full custody of him in 2013. The violence in the house continued, and shortly after, Drew had a stroke and was unable to practice law anymore. He then worked manual labour jobs until an accident at work damaged his hand, and then he was put on disability benefits. It was at this time that JoAnn got pregnant with AJ. AJ was born in October 2012, and his toxicology report tested positive for opiates and benzodiazepine. He was removed from her care and put into foster care with her cousin. After this, they were instructed to take part in a drug treatment program and a parenting class. Shockingly, after 18 months, AJ was returned back to his parents. Then in December 2014, Parker was born. On the 18th of April 2019, Andrew Freund rang 911 and reported his son missing. He'd said how he's gone to the doctor's appointment that morning, and when he got back, he checked his room and AJ wasn't there. The police quickly put a search party together to look for AJ, and they held candle vigils all around the town, praying for his safe return. During this time, his father done interviews with the press, but his mother JoAnn wasn't that interested and didn't cooperate with the police. A few days later, the police started to get suspicious of the parents. Their first instinct was when they went to search the house and it was in total disarray. There was clutter everywhere and there was waste all over the place. There was also an overwhelming smell of dog feces and urine, and when they looked at AJ's room, they found mouse droppings and a lock on his door. They also noticed that they'd searched child CPR on the night of his disappearance, and the final straw came from an incriminating video on JoAnn's phone. On one video, AJ is lying on his mattress. He was beaten and he had bandages on his waist and his wrists, deep bruises around his eyes and yellow bruising around his neck and upper chest. He was holding an ice pack to his face and she was berating him for wetting the bed. They were both brought in for questioning, and after showing Andrew the video, he confessed that his wife had beaten him. He said he tried to intercede and said that the boy was only 5 and he came up with a different way of punishing him, which was putting him into the shower and hosing him down until he confessed. After this, JoAnn also confessed, and they were both arrested for his murder and held on a $5 million bond. Andrew then led investigators to his shallow grave and told them the true events of what happened that night. On the 15th of April 2019, AJ had soiled his pants and was trying to hide it from his parents. However, his mum found the underwear and decided to punish him by putting him in the shower until he told the truth. They kept him in the shower for over 20 minutes, and JoAnn would spray him in the face with a shower head, and they would take it in turns walking in and out trying to get him to tell the truth. JoAnn then proceeded to beat him over the head with the shower head, until his dad came in and threw him in his bed, cold, wet and naked. Around 3 a.m. that morning, JoAnn woke up Andrew to tell him that AJ wasn't breathing. They both researched child CPR, however they both realised that he was dead, and Andrew said he would fix it. He placed him in a plastic box and put him into the basement until a few days later he drove about 7 miles and buried him in a shallow grave near the woods. They then proceeded to call the police a few days later to report him missing. During AJ's autopsy, it was revealed that he had severe swelling of the head with multiple bruises and abrasions. He had severe swelling of the brain, multiple abrasions to his torso, and small circular abrasions are the same shape as the shower head on his head. He died due to the blunt force trauma to his head and inhaling blood into his lungs. JoAnn Cunningham pleaded guilty to murder. However, due to her plea, the whole life sentence was dropped and she received 35 years in prison. During her sentencing, a harrow video was played to the court where AJ tells his mum he's going to get her in trouble. She proceeds to grab his throat and pushes him against a wall. He then goes on to say that he wants to be alone and he didn't want his family. This poor child had never experienced a real family life and just thought family was there to punish him. The judge said her actions were inhumane, repulsive, quite frankly shocking. Andrew initially pleaded not guilty to murder, but finally admitted to felony charges of battery to a child, involuntary manslaughter, and concealment of a homicidal death, and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. This case highlighted the systematic fails of the social services after it was revealed that JoAnn was known to DCFS. They had over 10 reports they decided not to act on. I will go through a number of incidents that occurred during AJ's short life. One neighbour told authorities how in Halloween 2017, AJ turned up to her house wrapped in bandages, clumps of hair missing and Vaseline all over his face. She had thought he'd dressed up for Halloween. However, his parents told her that he'd spilt boiling hot water all over himself. Adam Laberty worked at BCU Credit Union and he had realised the significant bruises all over AJ. On one occasion he had a black eye, bruises on his neck and arm, and the accident was blamed for him falling down the stairs. This was followed by 2 other incidents. On one occasion, the police were called for an unrelated incident where JoAnn's drugs were stolen from her house. The police had noticed a mark on AJ's hip and took him into the hospital where he had said that the dog had pawed him. However, he confirmed to the doctors that it might have been a belt and Mummy didn't mean to hurt him. On another occasion, JoAnn was admitted to hospital with track marks in her arms. AJ came in to see her in the hospital and it was noted that he had bruises all over his face and forehead. All these cases were investigated by the DCFS and were marked as unfounded and closed. They're now conducting a review of all their work. At the time of her arrest, JoAnn was also 7 months pregnant with another man's baby. Dan Nowicki had met JoAnn in a drug treatment program and they became romantically involved when Dan moved into their house. After giving birth, her daughter was given up and was put into foster care with her cousin. AJ's younger brother was also put into protective custody and his older brother remains with his grandma. Their house was also demolished after the city declared it as dangerous and the neighbours hope a memorial will be put in its place. This case really got to me, being a parent myself. I couldn't understand how anyone could do this to somebody, let alone their own child. Stories like this are the reason that I set up this channel, as I want to build awareness and help support charities that help innocent children. I think it's important to be aware and to look out for any problems that you may see amongst your community. If you are worried about anyone or do see anything suspicious, please report it to your local services as well as the police. If you're a parent or a family member of someone that is being hurt, please take them to hospitals as well as calling the police and social services, as this will help the case to be seen. I've added some numbers below as well. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.
You call me a saint, but you know I'm a stranger.